So Waiver Wire, Week 12, presented by ErvinandM.com. We have 11 fantasy additions to break down before waiver claims process on Wednesday. With notable injuries from Darnell Mooney, Alexander Madison, Tajay Spears, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and Gabe Davis. We'll go position by position from most viable to pure desperation, from tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and DST. Don't skip unless you're a hopeless, uncultured swine. We're going to start off with tight ends, and with Jonnu and Taysom over 50%, we kick it off with Zach Ertz. He's pretty much been a tight end one for most of the season, and he gets nearly 20% of the targets as well as first read looks. He grabs touchdowns in the red zone, but what really makes this nice is at least for this week, they face the Cowboys, and oh boy. No other team's defense allows tight ends more yards and third in allowing the big guys to score. So it's an elite matchup if he's still available. But if not, you can grab Will Dissly. I mean, I don't trust him, and maybe you don't either, but Justin Herbert sure does. Couple that with his matchup this week versus Baltimore, who allows the 10th most fantasy points to tight ends, and you're cooking. And the week after that, he plays the Falcons, who give up the 9th most, and the Chiefs after that, who give up the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends. So it's a solid 3-game stretch. Look at the running backs. Wide receivers next. I mean, if you can grab him, get Christian Watson. I know it's close at 49% and the volatility is rife, but you aren't going to ignore 24% target share and 150 receiving yard performance, leading the Packers in both this past week. His matchups are rough, but his upside is too high, and if you need a spot start, for the love of God, take him if he's available. Elijah Moore. Look, his matchups aren't great, but if this past week taught us anything, it's that Jameis Winston is going to spread the ball around to whoever can separate, and he's been able to feed 3 wideouts over the past several weeks, and that's not going to stop. For what it's worth, Pittsburgh does allow the 6th most fantasy points to slot receivers, so he has a path. Ray McLeod. Buy warning. This is strictly a stash, okay? But if you didn't know, Mooney suffered a hamstring injury this past week, and McLeod stepped in to fill his shoes. His performance was respectable, and if you've been playing fantasy long, you'll know hammies can take up to 4 weeks. So there's a path for him there as well. MVS. Another buy warning, okay? Strictly stasher. But I mean, what can I say? I wasn't about to go crazy like all the other doofuses talking about him being the next whatever, but in his 2 starts, he's embodied Rashid Shaheed. And I mean, are you going to have to rely on 4 targets and 2 goal balls? I mean, yeah, but so did Rashid Shaheed in the beginning, and wideouts like Jameson Williams. Quarterbacks is next. Anthony Richardson. I mean, at 44%, you can get him. Hey, he's worth a bench stash. You know, we're not going to hem and haw over one game after everyone hated him and dropped him and cursed him to hell. But it's noteworthy, man. He's got all the upside and a dilapidated basement level floor, but you could do worse. DST. I mean, Washington plays Cooper Rush and the tanking Cowboys. I mean, what else can I say? After this week, they get the Titans and the Mayo boy. I mean, you can ride them to week 13. No sweat. The Buccaneers. Their defense hasn't been good, but for the streaming option over the next 3 weeks, I mean, listen to these opponents. This week, the Giants. Week after that, Panthers. And after that, the Raiders in week 14. I mean, that is an enticing 3-game stretch to sit and forget. They should be able to get it done against these bottom-scoring offenses. Cardinals. I mean, their defense has been solid, but in terms of fantasy points, they've been league average. But it's Geno and the Seahawks matchup this week, and that's what makes it interesting. Geno has thrown 11 interceptions and has been sacked 32 times this year, so solid matchup. These 11 players are the most viable options based off Week 11 production, availability, and outlook. Subscribe, turn on post notifications so you stay prepared for Sunday, and visit my store. And watch some more videos!